Thank you for joining me for another dose of virtual vitamin Z. I'm Akilah, Education Specialist with the Detroit Zoological Society. Today I would like for you to take a journey with me. By the globe that I'm holding in my hand, can you tell me what continent we're going to be visiting today? If you said Africa, you're absolutely correct. So, the places that we're going to go are going to be right here next to the equator. And we're going to visit the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the swamps in Angola, Cameroon, Central African Republic, the Equatorial Guinea, and Gabon. So those are those regions and those countries right about there. And the animal that we're going to be highlighting today is going to be the Western Lowland Gorillas. Now, the Western Lowland Gorillas, we have 3 at the Detroit Zoo right now. They're 3 brothers. Chip, who is the oldest, and we call him, we have Chipua, who is the oldest. We have Pende, who is the middle child, and we have Congo, who is the youngest. Knowledge we're going to be gaining today is animal dietary needs. Vocabulary we're going to be learning, or recapping on a herbivore, carnivore, omnivore, variable. Here's that picture of Chip. When I checked in with the animal care staff, Chip was doing good. He's eating a lot, 3 times a day. He has breakfast in the morning, he has a midday snack, and then he has dinner. Like I said before, his full name is Chipua, and his name means to sprout. We have Pendeka, short for Pende, to be loved, and we have Congo Mbele. His name means small head, and we also call him Congo. Doesn't look like a very small head, does it? So we're going to be talking about what types of food they eat at the Detroit Zoo. Now, when our animal care staff, when they're trying to get their food for them, they use something called a food scale. It looks a lot like what we have in our own kitchens if we're trying to weigh the amount of food we have. Congo gets about 2 pounds of fresh produce every day. And he also gets 10 ounces of biscuits. And biscuit is kind of like a fiber, a heavy fiber, like an oatmeal if we want to have it on a daily basis. Pende, he gets about 2.5 pounds of produce, so fresh fruits and vegetables. And Chip gets 3 pounds of produce and 20 ounces of biscuits. So I talked a little bit already about that they eat produce. We're going to talk about carnivore, omnivore, and herbivore. Now, carnivores are animals who eat only meat. If you can see, they have very sharp teeth so they can tear that meat down. They have those incisors, which are in the front, just like we have, which are also fangs. And they eat only meat out in the wild. So animals like our tigers and our bears, they love their meat. Down here, we have the herbivore. And the herbivore are animals that only eat plants. So they have flat teeth, but you can see they have incisors in the front, which are very small. And then they have the teeth in the front where they can pull down the fruits and vegetables they like to eat and use those flat teeth in the back to chew them up and digest them very well. And then we have the omnivore skull. As you can see, that looks just like the human skull, which it is. So omnivores are animals that eat both produce and meat. So humans are considered omnivores, although some people choose to only eat vegetarian meals. So they're kind of like herbivores. And if I showed you a skull of just the gorilla, if you hadn't known already that he was an herbivore, by looking at him, sometimes people may think that he eats meat because of those fangs that he has. See those fangs that point out right there in the front? They have fangs so they can show their dominance out in the wild, or with the 3 brothers when they're in their habitat, they can show who's boss. Those guys are considered herbivores. So, like I said before, our animal care staff at the Detroit Zoo, they weigh their food out. So right here, I have 2 pounds of produce. So look at all that produce that Congo eats. That's a lot of produce just for his breakfast. I have a bucket for Pende, which is 2.5 pounds or 2.5 pounds. That's the produce that he can eat. And you see it's a lot of fresh fruits that we have in here, fresh vegetables. Now they don't eat things like eggplants. Maybe every now and then they'll get some apples. But they like to eat a lot of lettuce, romaine that's going to be in their diets, a lot of fruits, and a lot of sweet potatoes. And like I said before, they get those biscuits. And that's what those biscuits look like. Kind of looks like a dog treat you might have at home for your pet. And every now and then you'll see those guys walking around their habitat with some shrubbery or vegetation in their mouth. And what they'll do with that stuff is that they'll clean off a branch really, really well. And they'll make sure that all the leaves are off of it. They'll lick the stick really good. They'll stick it in a termite mound and eat those termites. And our last brother, who's the oldest, Chip, he gets about 3 pounds. And you see I had to pull out a large basket for this guy. That's a lot of produce just for one meal in the morning. Can you imagine eating that much fruit and vegetables just for one meal? I don't know if I can eat all that in a day. But our animal care staff at the Detroit Zoo, they make sure that they get a variety of that stuff, whether it's fruits, vegetables, and some of that fiber from those biscuits. Next, we're going to try and make a salad for Chip. This is my favorite part here. And if you're at home and you want to do this activity, only thing you need are some counters, and I can show you what those look like. So, if we wanted to start with 3 pieces of romaine heads, and we want to figure out what else can he eat? We decided that we were going to give Chip a sweet potato and a carrot. And we want to know how many is all that together. So we have 3 romaines. We have the 1 sweet potato, the 1 carrot. Now we're trying to figure out exactly how many pieces of food is that all together that's in that salad. Can you take a guess? If you said 5, you're absolutely correct. And that's what that looks like. Now, we're going to do a breakfast salad for Congo. Congo eats a total of 6 types of veggies. He eats 3 heads of romaine first. How many more bunches of carrots or sweet potato can he have? So this was a little bit more tricky because we don't have the pictures quite yet. It's a word problem. So that means you're just using words and numbers together. So we're going to start with that number 6 because that's the total. That means it's all together. And we have that equal sign. We have the 3 heads of romaine. Now this time, we want to figure out how many more bunches of carrots and sweet potato can he have. Can you take a wild guess? If you're not quite sure how to do this problem, we can take 1, 2, 3 and go all the way up to 6. So we can go 4, 5, and 6. And if you said 3, you're absolutely correct. Now, if you want to know what that will look like using counters, here we go right here. It's a combination of the sweet potato and carrots, and you can always do 2 carrots and 1 sweet potato, and you'll still get the number 6. Let's see. I think we have some more hungry half-brothers at the Detroit Zoo. I think Pende is our last brother that we need to feed. Pende eats a total of 10 bunches of veggies. He eats 4 romaine heads first. How many more bunches of carrots or sweet potato can he have? Now we're going to start with the number 10 first, because that's our total. Let's not forget that. After that, we're going to add that equal sign. And he eats 4 romaine heads first. So we want to know how many more bunches of carrots or sweet potato can he have. So remember, if we're saying more, we're more than likely going to use that symbol that looks like a plus sign. So that means we know that we're adding. And there we go. And now we're going to add an X. Now, I know we didn't use the counters this time, but you can still use your counters. An X is just represents a variable. And variable is just a fancy word for a letter that is eventually going to represent a number. So right here, our equation looks like this. 4 plus X is equal to 10. And now we need to figure out how to solve for X. And the way that we're going to do that is that we need to try and get X by itself. So that means we need to subtract 4 from each side. So we have 10 minus 4 on the right side right after the equal sign. And whatever we do to the right, we must do to the left. We have 4 minus 4 there, and so it cancels out. So we're going to bring down that X, that equal sign, and 10 minus 4 is going to be 6. So if you had said X is equal to 6, you're absolutely right. Now, we said that he started with 4 pieces of romaine. I don't have any romaine here with me, but I do have some cabbage. And this stuff, it's pretty heavy. So if you can imagine 4 of those, and then we're also going to be adding some carrots and sweet potato, what can that combination look like? Right here we have 3 carrots, 3 sweet potatoes. Right here we have 4 carrots, 2 sweet potatoes. Right here we have 5 carrots and 1 sweet potato. And they're always going to equal 10. So at the Detroit Zoo, our animal care staff, they try and ensure that our animals get a variety of foods. Because they eat 3 times a day, they don't want to eat all the same things. How would you feel eating the same meal over and over again every single day? So just to recap, the knowledge that we gained today is that we explored animal diets. The skills that we gained, that we explored, were practicing, adding, and subtracting. We also practiced some of those math word problems using numbers and words. And we also solved equations. So we used a little bit of algebra, and we talked about the word variable. So if you're in 2nd, 3rd grade, you may just be starting off with like 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. And then when you get to 4th and 5th grade, you might be doing 6 plus blank is equal to 10. And you're trying to figure out what is going to be in the middle. What's 6 plus whatever is equal to 10, and it's going to be 4. Always going to be 4. And if you're in middle and high school, you're probably looking at 6 plus X is going to be equal to 10. So it's pretty basic math. Just to recap the vocabulary, we looked at herbivores. Remember, those are animals that only eat plants. Carnivores were animals that only eat meat. And omnivores are animals that eat both. We talked about algebra and variable. If you want to do this activity at home, you'll need to have pencil, paper, and counters. Now I know I had a fancy iPad today, but if you're home and you want to try this out, you can always You can always cut out some counters if you want to be fancy, or you can use regular things that are lying around the house, like chapstick, maybe some pencils. Those can be counters too. It doesn't matter what you have. As long as you have some items that are laying around, you can always do these types of activities. Thank you for joining me today. Make sure you tune in at 4 p.m. where David, my colleague David, he's going to be giving you another dose of virtual vitamin Z, and he's going to be telling some stories about animals that live at the zoo. Thanks for joining me, and we see you soon.